Good morning, everyone. Guys, I watched a Peter Hitchens interview this morning, and I did some search on the keywords, and what I found was absolutely terrifying. So I'm going to give you a lot of my own speculation on here because I don't want to end up in the gulag, but then I'm going to share some articles with you and let you guys make your own mind up. Just before we go on though, guys, I want to, don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. So just before we go on, I did a video a couple of weeks, maybe a week ago or something, about subversion and what that actually means. Now, subversion, just in less than a minute, is the process of a hostile country destabilizing another country by means of intellectual input. And by intellectual, I don't always mean a positive thing. Now, what we would say is there's four phases of subversion. First of all, you have the demoralization phase, which you would move into the country and you would start teaching ridiculous things. You would find and identify people that are young, that have potential to blossom into leaders of that country. And you have to get these people when they're young and at an impressionable age. And then you have to use, there's lots of ways we can use that. We can use at the moment. Well, a lot of people use the internet now. But back then in the 1980s, for example, it was a lot of direct contact, a lot of foreign trips, a lot of, the Russians were heavily involved in this. And they would get people from, universities who they think are going to grow up to be world leaders, high flyers from Oxford, Cambridge, these sorts of universities where the people predominantly become people in power. Now, that's kind of subversion, because once you've subverted somebody at a young age, maybe that person doesn't even know they've been subverted themselves. And that's kind of the genius thing with subversion. The people don't actually know themselves they've been subverted. And then they start to teach those ideals and those ideological thought patterns to other people. And then they spread that. And, people don't even need to do anything. And it's absolutely insane. Anyway, guys, so I was watching this Peter Hitchens interview earlier on today. If I can find it, I'll link it in the description below. Now, I've obviously been searching for this and trying to look into Keir Starmer's background and see if I could find any trips that he made to Russia or any Russian influence he's had with any Russian companies, because I'm looking at him and, as a normal person, it's my opinion that he's so out of touch with the normal rank and file voter of the United Kingdom. It's absolutely unbelievable. Anyway, so I was trying to find these connections, I was trying to make these connections online, and I just couldn't find anything until I saw this Peter Hitchens interview, and he gave me the key words to look for, which is let me share this page with you guys real quick. Where are we here? So here we are, guys, on this page here. So how a young Kier Starmer ended up in communist spy files after joining a Czechoslovakian work camp during the Cold War. So I'll put this link in the description, guys, okay? But basically, Kier Starmer went to Czechoslovakia when it was part of the Soviet Union. And I'll read you what it says here. Look. Files marked top secret from a previous international work camp in Prague in 1982. So it was overseen by a ruthless Czech STB spy agency as part of a wider-ranging, far-reaching, active measure, a euphemism for black operations and a disinformation campaign to undermine NATO. So in my previous video, I talk about these things. I talk about these as being part of subversion. And back then in 1982, there was no such thing as the internet. So these things had to be active measures or direct contact, as you'd call them later on. The secret police also planted a spy posing as a camp supervisor among the foreign students in 1982. to produce a classified dossier profiling the visitors, which earmarked some for further exploitation, who could potentially be of use in the future. The files from Keir Starmer's camp do not specify whether the secret police plan to use the information they harvested from him and others, but security experts said they also appeared to be gathering intelligence about young high flyers in Western countries for potential long-term use. So what we see from this document and what we see from this article is back in 1982, sorry, I thought it was 86. Back in 1982, Keir Starmer was already, from this article, guys, I'm not making it up, I'm not speculating, I'm telling you what this article says. From this article and the evidence presented, which I'll obviously put in the link in the description, Keir Starmer was known to the, what did it say again? Yeah, was known to the, to the Soviet intelligence service as somebody earmarked for further exploitation. Now, look how he is now. Look at the policies he's putting in place. Look at the total. He's totally out of touch with his voters and with the people in the United Kingdom. And this is what happens in subversion. Guys, I'm not just making this up now. I've put this, I did a video on this, and I'll link it at the end, like I said, but, I talk about all the phases of subversion. I talk about what phase we're in at the moment. And I think we're moving from I think we're in the late end of the destabilization phase. I think we're going to very soon move into the crisis phase. Now, a lot of people, are saying, oh, would it be so bad if we were under the rule of Russia? And well, I don't think that's ever going to happen. I don't think Russian tanks are ever going to be rolling. What I do think could happen is we could have a political class, a class of people in our upper echelons that are literally, Russian sympathizers, but they don't know they're Russian sympathizers. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, look at how the socialist system is set up. And guys, and I'll come on to the capitalist system in a minute. So the socialist system is where everybody gives everything to the state, and then the state decide what to do with that money. Do we have competent people in our government that can spend our money well? Look at the Rwanda. Look what just happened with this Rwanda bill. Almost £1 billion gone, and it's not coming back. I can talk about the pension schemes. I can talk about the management or missale of our water companies. There's so many examples I can talk about how bad the government have been, how bad the government deal with spend our money. Look how much they're spending on these hotels. So this is kind of what a socialist system is, but it would just be worse. We would have to do everything for the state, and then, the people, what we found historically, who get in power are, ultimate power, ultimate power corrupts ultimately. So there's a good book by I think George Orwell. I gave it to when I met my American friends in London a couple of weeks ago. I gave us all a copy of George Orwell's Animal Farm, and they'd read it before. But I said, listen, and I was joking when I said that. I said, listen, the way things are going in the United Kingdom at the moment, we may have to use this as an encryption key to send messages between ourselves. And we all laughed, and they're talking about it now. They're saying like, hey Sean, are we at a time when we can use this this book as an encryption key? Anyway, so socialism, guys, and and this system, it doesn't end well for any country. Now, I totally understand what we've got at the minute is kind of well, it's not kind of, it is. We're in late stage capitalism. That's why everything is so dangerous at the moment, because, it's like we need a change, and a change is coming. But what that change is, I don't know. And what I mean by late stage capitalism is well, you try and start a business now, there's no incentive now for you to start a business. In the 1950s, if you wanted to work hard, if you wanted to put the extra effort in, if you wanted to start a business and you had you was competent, you had some good ideas, you had some good products, you had a good service, you could start your own business and make some money. It's very difficult now. Why? Well, because first of all the money goes to the big companies. And then what those big companies will do, they will see your idea and they'll think, oh, that's a good idea. I'll buy that company. And then that person in that company, they think, well, I'm not making any money. I've got a good idea. This guy's offering me some money. And then they'll sell their company. And then that bigger company says, right, now I own you. I'll release this when it's good for me. And that's not good for the consumer. I'll give you an example of that. There's I won't mention them by name, but there's a company who, and you can search this, guys. You'll find it yourself. There's a company who built they're a British company. They built a solar powered aircraft. Now, this aircraft was a high altitude aircraft. It was there to potentially replace satellites in low Earth orbit. Obviously, with it being an aircraft, with it being solar powered, you could bring it down, you could refurbish it, you could do a lot more stuff with it as a high altitude aircraft that was solar powered, that didn't need to land, than a satellite that once it's up, it doesn't come down and it will essentially become space junk. Anyway, there was this company, they built this aircraft. It was a really good aircraft. The guy was really enthusiastic. He was really keen. I met him at a convention once, before he'd sold his company, and he was really enthusiastic. He was really happy, about his product. He made some really good breakthroughs with the layering of the solar cells. He then sold that to a big prime. Now, I met him after he'd sold it. I think 2 years after he'd sold his company to a big prime. And I spoke to him. I said, how's it going? And he was so demoralized because that big prime had took his company. They took his idea, they bought all his intellectual property, and they did nothing with it. Absolutely nothing. They didn't do anything with it. All they did was sit that on a shelf because there was no incentive for those guys to develop that. Nobody else was developing one. There was no market for it. They didn't need to push that forwards. So what are they going to do? They're going to wait until the time's right. And they are going to 10x that price. Because they can. They're going to 10x that price and sell it back to the government, which will be the taxpayer. So the taxpayer will take that 10x cost. And that's the problem, guys, okay? Late stage capitalism, it's not just bad for, guys, it's bad for everyone, all right? You can't start a business and prices of everything go up and all the money goes to the same people. And that's why at the moment we're due for a change in, I think, our financial regulatory, not financial regulatory, but, we're due for a change in the way we do business because we don't have capitalism anymore. And the people and normal rank and file people, they're really struggling. They're really struggling to do anything really. Like I just said, if you try and start a business now, it's virtually impossible. So you have to get a job and you have to work for somebody. Hours are getting, things are just getting, things, especially in the United Kingdom, seem to be getting worse and worse. And again, you can go back to Karl Marx's Communist Manifesto when he sets out, he highlights things that are in place for a revolution. I'm not saying a revolution is going to happen. I'm saying that things are certainly heading that way. Anyway, guys, I waffled on far too long. I've got another video to do later on today. What I wanted, guys, I'm just going to outline this video again, okay? And I'll put the links in the description. Keir Starmer in 1982 was known to the Soviet intelligence service as, I'll give you the phrase again. Okay. So Keir Starmer in 1982 was earmarked by, and this is from the article that I'm sharing with you guys, so, I don't want to end up in a gulag. I'll read it verbatim. The Secret Service also planned to spy President to produce a classified dossier profiling the visitors, which earmarked some for further exploitation who could be potentially of use in the future. So let me ask you this. Do you think that Keir Starmer in his current position could be useful to whoever wrote that document, whoever did that dossier? I'll leave that with you guys as my final thought, guys. All right, I'll let you make your own mind up because I don't want to end up in a gulag. Anyway, guys, I am going to mag to grid, and I will see you guys later.